Howdy folks, welcome to another episode of the Snowy's Camping Show. As usual, in the studio is, I'm modified that one, is myself, Ben, and my colleague Lauren.
Hello.
How you going?
Good.
We did it. That was a slightly different intro than I've always tried to modify
different.
that. It's been the same for 100 and whatever episodes.
We've actually redone our podcast room with a lot more acoustic foam and stuff than we previously have. I want to know if anyone can hear a difference because I can. I feel like there's a richness to the
it does feel
sound
rich.
in here.
And there's kind of darkness because we did, and when we say we, it was actually Larry, the guy who's done all of this behind the camera.
He's our behind the camera guy.
Produces all of our stuff, who's been part of every video. He actually did it. I said, why don't we use a hot glue gun? Because we had issues with what we were sticking the foam on and it was dropping off the walls, and then got to a point where he said, guys, we really need to stick that foam up because the sound's echoing everywhere. So I said, well, what about a hot glue gun? So I brought mine in and he went, yeah, that works. And then a day later he had it fixed. And we've been sitting on this for months.
Yeah, we have.
Going, how are we going to fix this?
And he diligently hot glue gunned every single piece of foam tile to the walls and the roof.
So when we say we say it's actually Larry. So this is a good opportunity, Larry, to put a B-roll of yourself in here so people get an image of who you actually are, the man behind the camera. So do it, Larry. A bit of the pressure's on. You probably just cut this section out now.
Probably.
Anyway, back to the episode. We're probably going to be a short episode, but we're not doing well so far. If you haven't already done so, you can subscribe to our channel on YouTube or your favorite podcast app and jump in on the conversation at the Snowy's Camping Banter Facebook group. If you haven't joined, jump in and ask to join and we'll let you in. And there's all sorts going on there. Now, we've got a customer question episode today.
And you've just refilled our little kitty, haven't you?
We have. I just put a query out recently on the Facebook group and asked for some questions and got a handful and a few others that we've added in there. So just to update you, we'll give away a stubby cooler and a bumper sticker. To anyone who gets their question asked or answered. When I say answered, just discussed, because we'll do our best to answer it on the show. Now, we come in loosely prepared for these. We pick a subject out of the magic stubby cooler here. Yeah. Best stubby cooler money can buy. And we do our best to answer it. So
before we get into it, I do just want to do a quick little shout out to our little mate Jack, who's probably listening to this, because I just ran into him in the store before and he said he listens to all of our episodes. Yep. So hello, Jack, if you are listening. Now, I don't know if you guys remember, but ages and ages ago, I think it was a couple of years ago, we were talking about on a podcast, we were really excited because we got our first little piece of fan mail and it was written by this little lad called Jack. Well, technically it was written by Jack's mum and he'd drawn these little pictures of like me and you and him and whatever. It was very cool. Anyway, I still have that stuck up on the wall next to my desk, and I was downstairs in the Keswick store today, and this lady came up to us and she was like, "This is Jack," and I was like, "Hi, Jack," and she was like, "We wrote to you," and I was like, "Oh my gosh." Still on my wall next to my desk. So hello, Jack. Thanks for listening to us, mate, and I'm really glad that you've got those walkie-talkies hanging on your bikes now because that sounds really fun.
And a stubby cooler for your lemonade.
Yes, or a bubbly water, as we call it in our family.
Nice.
Mineral water. Love that. Right, what's today's question?
All right. Oh, I put this one in. I saw it come in. I really like this question.
Do you really?
Yeah. So this is from Heather on the Facebook group. It came in just recently.
Okay.
How long would we last on Alone, that SBS series? And what would be our 10 items that we take? I love this series. I am totally addicted. Now, one of our previous guests was on this. Kate.
Such a good question. We had Kate Rarrock
was on this. She was on the last episode, and I've just started watching the new ones, and I love this.
Actually, we're on the third season of Alone now, and she was on the original, which was when we first saw she was on there, that was so good.
Yep.
I'm obsessed with that show as well. I've been watching it since the beginning in America as well, through SBS On Demand. Oh, so good. But also, it's such a great question and not at all what I was expecting.
No. Which I remember she actually said bonus question, and I thought, no, that's not a bonus question. That's a proper question.
See, I feel like this is a bit unfair because you've had a bit of a heads up on this one.
Well, no, I haven't thought about it. I had too much else to think about. But I've thought about the first part. How long would you last? Now,
admittedly, it is something I've thought about a lot before.
I have too. So my answer is pre-prepared, I suppose. And how long would you last on SBS Alone? Now, I like fishing. I cannot catch fish.
Right, okay.
And I don't have a lot of reserve body fat. So if I'm being realistic, I would love to go on there and would like to think I'd do everything right, but the fish just wouldn't bite the hook, and I'd probably starve and be gone within a few days.
Yeah.
Because I just don't have anything in reserve.
Do you remember? Oh my God. I just want to say there is this guy, if you haven't watched it, I think it was the original Patagonia season in the American episode, like the American series. The first season that they did in Patagonia, there was a guy, and I can't remember what name he was, but he caught so many fish and had set up this whole smoking thing inside of his shelter and just had like so much dried fish that he'd smoked and stored there. And he ended up getting medically evacuated because he was so thin. And it was too dangerous for him to continue because he wouldn't eat this fish that he'd stored because he was worried about running out in the future. But he was like, he was just getting thinner and thinner, and it's like, eat the damn fish, but he wouldn't eat the fish. And then the medical team came and ditched him, and he was like, but I've got so much food in there. And they were like, it's not our fault, mate. But that will go down in history for me as a classic moment.
Yeah. Right.
Okay, back to the actual question.
So first part, how long do you reckon you'd last? If I could catch fish, I would be more than happy. I would miss my family. That'd be my main issue. But if I could get around missing my family, I would quite happily live by myself in that situation for as long as I needed, provided the fish would bite the damn hook. But
I agree. Having said that, though, I think that's what everybody thinks, which is why the show is so popular. Nobody goes on there thinking, I'm not going to win or I'm not going to last very long. Like everybody who goes on the show, and this always gets me, one thing that I find really interesting is that the people who fold within the first day or 2 days, because I feel like for a lot of people that psychological pressure of being truly alone is very overwhelming, especially if you're not someone who's, I don't know, if your emotional intelligence, I guess, isn't well developed, or you don't have a very good relationship with being by yourself, that would probably be the most challenging thing. I think for me personally, I have no issues being by myself. I really, really enjoy it, and I crave time of being alone. And I do think that from that side of things, I would go okay. I don't think I'd have trouble building a shelter. I don't think I'd have trouble with fires. Like I don't think I'd have trouble with any of that. And unlike you, I'm probably a lot more similar to Gina, who I also am obsessed with, who won the first season, the Australian season, because I do have quite a lot of energy stored on my body, and I would have no issues not eating food for quite some time, which was exactly Gina's strategy, right? Like she bulked up before that and lasted quite a long time.
Yeah.
How long do you think? Tell. I reckon I could quite comfortably say that I could probably go a month.
Yep.
Comfortably.
I think you're right though. You can't really tell until you get there.
But you can't really tell.
You wouldn't know, because I know I've spent nights out by myself before, and it is a very different mindset when you're by yourself and your senses are heightened, and you do sometimes have to relax into a situation if something doesn't quite go right, and because it's all just you've got to work it out. So
yeah, and I think it's also very different in choosing to be alone when there are still people around. You know, the choice to be alone versus enforced alone isolation or whatever.
Yeah.
It's totally different.
There's some comfort in knowing there's people nearby.
Yeah, and I think I have also heard that when the medical team come to visit you, they don't look at you, they don't interact with you, they don't talk to you at all. I feel like that would be quite a strange,
quite robotic kind of.
Quite a strange thing. But anyway, so I think I think I could comfortably last a month. Not sure beyond that.
The second part of this question then is a bit harder to think of on the spot. So let's try and come up with 10 items between us. I know I would take a flint, absolutely take a flint, because I know that's going to last as long as I need it.
Yep.
And a good knife, like a fixed blade knife.
Definitely.
I don't know if I'd need an axe or a machete as well. If you've got a fixed blade knife, maybe something bigger to be able to chop timber. So this is where you got to think about it, right?
Yeah, but I think you would. I think you could, if you made the right choice and you spent a bit of time on it, you could get a knife that was effective.
You can hammer it.
That you could use for some sort of hacking as well.
Yeah. fishing line and hooks. I don't know if that's 1 or 2 items, but I'd definitely take fishing line and hooks and a heap of cord.
A heap of paracord. Mm-hmm. Yep.
So that's call that 4.
Mm.
A pot to cook in.
Mm.
What sort of pot would you? I see him drinking out of cast iron pots.
Cast iron?
Mm.
No, wouldn't take cast iron.
No, take a steel pot.
Yeah, I reckon.
Spun steel pot that you can cook in, reasonably big one.
Yeah, because it's like I think the cast iron would have its benefits if you're wanting to sort of like bake or retain when you're not baking cakes out there or damper or whatever. You just mostly probably just going to boil water and boil stuff in water.
Yep.
Just like a decent billy.
I don't know if they get given the tarps that they use for their shelter. I have a feeling that's part of what they.
Do you know what?
I had to take with them.
Keep thinking about it because I'm going to quickly bring it up. I'm going to bring up the list.
All alone to think about this now. I don't know like a sleeping bag. Like I need a good sleeping bag, somewhere to stay warm and a good rain jacket. But I'm not sure where these 10 items. There must be some boundaries around what they can and can't take. Something to keep warm, something to keep dry.
Apparently, you can have 10 items from the following list, but you can only choose 2 food items. So you are responsible for sourcing and purchasing all of your 10 items. Okay, so they've got on like a food list, they've got things like fishing line. So that's a food list. So fishing line's on the food list. A bow, like a bow, a recurve or a long bow is on the list. A gill net, a foraging bag, trapping wire, slingshot, all of those things are part of the food list, right? But then you've got things like jerky, pulses, military biscuits, chocolate, pemmican, gorp, flour, rice. Like there are extra things that you can take. But then you've also got pot, frying pan, flint, bowl for eating, spoon, water bottle. So that means that out of that list that I've just read,
I don't know if
food is a maximum of 2 items. So that means if you take fishing line and a bow, you can't take a pot or a ferro rod. So if you choose a ferro rod, then that's one thing.
Oh, wow, that's interesting.
And I don't know. I mean, mind you, though, this is looking at the latest season of Alone's list. So I'm wondering if it's changed. But I swear I've seen people with a flint and a pot and fishing line. But according to this, you can't have
that. Well, we won't get too bogged down on the shoulds. But, yeah.
I feel like we're getting a bit off track because this is a huge
I think
question.
The tarps and the sleeping bags and stuff are a given. You got to take that stuff. It must be extra things. So
tarps, I wouldn't take more than 1 tarp. I would literally only take 1 tarp. I have seen people take 2, like a ground and a top. I would literally only take 1 tarp.
Over the top.
I would probably take paracord.
I probably wouldn't take those food items because they're not going to last long. Maybe. Oh, no, I wouldn't because you're going to eat them quickly.
Would you take a sleeping mat? I don't think I would.
No, I'd make a bed out of.
Would you take a bivvy bag?
No, if I got a tarp, I wouldn't take a bivvy bag because you'd build a shelter.
Obviously, sleeping bag.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't take a hammock. You can take soap. Would you take soap? No, I wouldn't take soap.
No.
Would you toothpaste, flannel, dental floss?
Well, I'd have something to clean my teeth, something for oral hygiene.
I'd probbe take. Well,
are these in the 10?
If you're
items?
not, if you're not, if you're not eating anything, what's the point of brushing your teeth? Toothpaste, flannel, dental floss, soap, razor, towel, comb. I wouldn't take a towel.
No.
I probably wouldn't take a comb. I'd just find some sort of stick and give a crack.
Carve it out of wood.
Finger brush your hair.
Yeah.
I don't think I would take a flannel.
No.
Because you could just use your clothes, right?
So looking at all that, I'd probably stack the hunting items trap, but I mean I'd have to do a bit of research around. I like the idea of trapping and that sort of thing, but I'd have to do some research in how to actually set it, how to build it.
The thing that I like about fishing line, right, is even though it's not necessarily like, you know, it can be a long time between catching fish. It's not an energy expensive activity.
Fishing.
Yeah.
No, that's right.
But you can take a knife, a hunting knife, a pocket knife, a Leatherman tool, sharpening stone, duct tape or electrical tape, shovel, machete, sewing kit, carabiner, flashlight, ice spikes.
These are all in the 10.
These are all things you can, these are all approved items. Hatchet, saw, axe.
We're not going to have a clear 10 items here.
Okay, so what do we got? We got sleeping bag, tarp, flint, pot,
knife, like a big knife.
Hunting knife, so that's 5.
Yep, fishing wire, fishing line.
Did I say that already?
I don't know.
Sleeping bag, tarp, knife, pot, flint, fishing line, that's 6, so that's 4 more things.
Yep. And maybe something for hunting larger animals, slingshot or a bow or something like that.
That's what you would go with?
Maybe. I'd have to be confident in using it first.
I feel like I'd probably be more inclined to take some sort of hunting knife and something larger like a hatchet.
Or a machete.
Or like even one of those little pool saw things because I feel like
some of the bigger to make a good shelter.
Because if you got good shelter and good firewood, good quality firewood is good. So that would be 7. So then you got 3 things left.
So I'd do some research around setting traps and what I'd need to set a good trap. Paracord.
Paracord. So then that's 2 things.
Yeah. Toothbrush. I don't know. Seems weird that you wouldn't take a toothbrush.
Yeah, you're right. It does seem weird, doesn't it? But you're not kissing anyone and you're barely eating anything.
Yeah, but I'm not there to rot my face in.
No, you're not. But like
oral hygiene, I guess you could use your finger. I don't know.
Finger or some sort of I don't know. Yeah, toothbrush, because I feel like that's a little luxury, right? Like I feel like that's something that you could take that would help you hold on to.
I've always thought you've always got to maintain. We learned it in Scouts. You always got to maintain personal hygiene.
Yeah, that's true. Personal hygiene and also routine, I guess. Yeah. Getting up, making whatever.
And probably a flashlight, some sort of light.
They all have head torches, so I'm wondering if head torches are part of the kit. Maybe. And in that case, if a head torch is part of the kit already, that's a provided item, then I wouldn't bother taking a flashlight. But if it wasn't, then obviously I'd take head torch. I reckon that's the 10.
There you go. That's what we take. Cool question.
It is a cool question.
That would probably change as you went through and did some research and you go, actually, no, I think I want this, I think I want that. And you'd
Very cool question.
You go with a game plan. I reckon there'd be a lot of research leading up to going into that and going, this is how I'm going to play this out and these are the tools that I'm going to take with me to be able to.
There is also one US episode in Mongolia where a guy literally kills like a yak or a buffalo or something. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head, just with a hunting knife. He just like creeps up to it and then just runs full ball and just goes, and kills it. So I think if you got to a point where you're desperate, would you really want to take a bow and arrow or would you just want to have a hunting knife and
I don't know,
learn to be one with the bush?
Probably prefer to try and trap smaller animals because if you killed an entire yak, right, you're like, I've got meat for an army now. What am I going to do with it all?
But it would also be kind of cool.
Although in Mongolia and stuff, they just kind of pop it in the snow and it stays frozen.
That's true.
You don't
Natural fridge.
We're used to having to take things to keep things cold. They just like put it in the snow next to their tent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would love to do that show.
So would I.
And I think that I probably wouldn't win. I think I have the stubbornness to win. But I would be out there for a good amount of time, I reckon.
Give it a fair go.
Yeah.
Cool. Anyway, thanks for the question, Heather. You've earned yourself a very well-earned, I reckon, stubby cooler and bumper sticker on its way to you.
Thanks, Heather. That was good.
We'll be in touch via Facebook. Cool. Anyway, that's it for this episode. We'll join you next time on the Snowy's Camping Show. Thanks for watching. See you later.